Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. Is it Wednesday? It's Hump Day. Happy Hump Day, everybody. How is everyone doing this fine evening? Just to let you know, just a couple of technical glitches. Natalie should be on in just a few. And also, hold on one second, everybody. Here we go. Come on, little Vespa. This is my co-host for now. This is Vespa. Meet Vespa, everybody. So my partner's gone to Idaho to see family, and I am babysitting the kids. So if you hear some funny noises in the background today, it's probably Vinny Vieira and Vespa Valentina getting up to absolute no good and complete mischief. So there you have it. Good evening to everybody in chat. How is everyone feeling this evening? Hope you're feeling really good. It's interesting with regards to the shows that we've got coming up. We're doing some content that is Arsenal and also a little bit different. We love talking football, so we'll bring you lots of different stories from different walks of life in football. And Brentford FC is one of those stories that I just love. I think seeing a team like that be promoted to the Premier League after trying for so long, I think it's since the 40s. Natalie will tell us exactly when, but seeing a team like that promoted, as Arsenal fans, we don't really know what that feels like. We flirted with relegation a little bit, didn't we, earlier this season? Let's all be honest. We got a little bit scared, a little bit frightened about where we were, our form, the fact that we were sinking low and fast, among teams like Newcastle and Brighton, etc. And that was a little bit hard. But to kind of see your team, look, Manchester City, how many years ago? I don't know, 15 years ago? We talked to Sean Goater about this inside the dressing room last year. They were in the second division, and new ownership and some good fortune found themselves, back in the big time, and look at them now. So these stories are really interesting because we never get to experience them. And these are the kind of fans that you feel for, aren't they? Season after season, in terms of going through that. And imagine being a Swansea fan or any of those teams that just lose in that playoff final at Wembley. That is completely and utterly brutal. So let's hope Natalie's technical glitch is over in a few, and then she'll be on. Gunner Forever, I like that. Hit the like button. I'm going to get there. You know what? Should we talk about this real quick before Natalie gets here and Kevin? If he goes to Spurs, I'll be worried. I will be worried. And you also have to say to yourself, what's wrong with Manchester United? I mean, forget Arsenal. Let's just park that for a second, right? But if you're Manchester United, at least Arteta's won an FA Cup. He's won two of his finals. Most would say, you can't count the Community Shield. But he still won a final when it was against Liverpool. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has lost all of his semis and his finals. He's been unable to win anything. And Manchester United, you would think, would go after someone like Antonio Conte. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? I don't think it's the same thing about Jose going to Spurs at all. But we'll get stuck into that. And we'll definitely get Natalie's perspective as well. It doesn't matter. He'll be there for 2 seasons, you guys, and he'll win something. Watch. The guy's a serial winner. Let's bring Natalie into the show. Hey, Natalie, welcome to the show. Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm so sorry. I was meant to join you earlier and my computer crashed, which is so typical.
That's okay. Technical glitches all the way around today. Hopefully, Kev will be here soon. I know that he's working as well and running into a pickle. But either way, we have you here. And I was just talking to the Arsenal fans, actually, everyone, our squaddies in chat, about Antonio Conte and this Tottenham swirling rumour. I wasn't worried when I was thinking Scott Parker might go there. I was happy about that. Even Nuno going there, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But Antonio Conte is a completely different breed of manager, isn't he, Natalie? And as Arsenal fans, there's a few of us that are a little bit worried.
Well, he's a serial winner, isn't he? And I'm not surprised that you'd be a little bit concerned. To have won the title in Serie A as he's just done and now be looking for a new job, it seems a bit balmy in itself. But we know what he can do, what he did at Chelsea. I thought in a way he was a little bit unlucky to lose his job at Chelsea when he did. So, yes, I completely understand. With Scott Parker, you're thinking, oh, well, that's going to be a project. That's a long-term thing that may or may not work. But with Conte, he can bring instant success. I'm not saying he's going to deliver a Premier League title, but he can certainly deliver a trophy. And I can see why Arsenal fans may be a little bit concerned, a bit annoyed about that possibility.
I know. I mean, I would even say Manchester United fans should be a little bit bummed, because when you look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's not really, been able to turn those semi-finals or finals into a trophy. He's been there now for quite some time. At least Arteta did win the FA Cup final. He's beaten Liverpool in a Community Shield final. I'm not saying the Community Shield is it's not the highlight of the CV, but you would think that Manchester United would be in that game, even for 2 years, to turn it around in terms of being able to really challenge and win something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're quite right. I mean, he's just a manager, Antonio Conte, of just high caliber, isn't he? And I think if anyone in the Premier League can get him, and if Tottenham are the team in hot pursuit, then teams around that sort of top 4, top 6, they're going to be worried, because they know the job that he can do. They know that he can bring some sort of instant success. And you're quite right to pick up on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And yes, he got to the Europa League final, so he got over that semi-final hoodoo, but in the end came to nothing. Yeah.
Well, listen, let's translate all of this into your boys and your team. What a season for you. Our Arsenal, are you wearing your shirt? I love that. Look at that, guys. Natalie's rocking the shirt, and these boys rocked the final. I mean, what a day. You were there, and you were with your dad, weren't you, for the semi-final? There's a beautiful picture of you with your dad. Can you talk us through, before we go way back, can you just talk us through that moment in particular, being there with your dad?
Oh, goodness. It sort of brings a little bit of goose pimples just talking about it. And, I'm sure, like any fan knows, when you've won something, you've achieved something, you always watch it back, don't you? And especially now with social media, you can see all the clips that people put out. So I've watched so many things back. But yes, that moment that you're talking about is the full-time whistle, and we're up, and we've, much like the semi-final hoodoo we were talking about with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've got over our playoff hoodoo. And it was a strange moment, because initially you think, apart from jumping up and down, you're like, what do you do? And I turned to my dad, and he just had tears in his eyes. And he is a very emotional person anyway, but has never shown real emotion when it comes to football. I'm always the worried one. I'm always the concerned one and fearful. And he's just very sort of plateau, shall we say. And to look at him and just see these, just water in his eyes, it got me. And I obviously grabbed him and gave him a big hug. My brother was there as well, and we pulled him into it. So yes, it was just quite an emotional moment. And I was very fortunate that it was captured on video by some people that I know that were behind us. And yes, it was just wonderful.
Talk us through how you became a Brentford fan, because I think you grew up in Ealing. A lot of folks who live in Ealing generally I know quite a few folks from Ealing, and they became Brentford fans. Clearly, it's because of your dad. When did your love affair with football start? Was it something that was just ingrained in you from a young age from your father?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I think I have to go back to the late 80s, which I don't even like saying when you think how long ago that was, Sophie. But that's when that was our first game. And it was actually for my brother's birthday. And we got quite a few tickets through like the Brentford Community Sports Trust as it is. And I remember we were sat in Griffin Park, which obviously is no longer our home. And what, if people have been there, of the later years at Griffin Park, the 2-story sort of stand that we had for a while was the home end, and we were in the top end, so we were in the seated section, not the standing section below. And I can just remember like the haze of the lights, because it was a sort of autumnal night, and it was a 1-1 draw against Bristol Rovers. We'd gone out before for a lunch at a nearby pub. And actually, the Bristol Rovers fans sort of came up to us, some of them, and asked what was going on. And we explained it was a party, and they made a collection for my brother. And it was lovely because the whole day just started off with such a good note, and we were hooked. We were absolutely hooked from day one when we got taken to Griffin Park. And that was our love affair, which has been a roller coaster, Sophie. It really has. But at the moment, we're right at the very top, and we're enjoying it.
You know, I was saying to everyone in chat just before you came on, as Arsenal fans, we just don't know what that feels like. That's something that we've never experienced. For the first time this season, we kind of flirted with being in that relegation zone. Again, something that, yes, we've been poor over the last few years, but at the same time, you know, we've never really been in that boat. And I think this was the first season where for a few weeks we were a little bit worried. The team wasn't doing well. We were playing suspect football. Can you talk us through, because the ups and downs of being a fan of a team like Brentford, the losing part of it, the part where you've been so close, how do you deal with that? Like, I just don't even know how that would feel.
Yeah. Do you know what? When it comes to playoffs, so this playoff final win over Swansea at the weekend was our 10th attempt of going up through the playoff.
Wow.
We have the worst record coming into it. And the ironic thing is the whole playoff idea came through our former chairman, Martin Lange. And we're going back obviously a while when he came up with this idea thinking it would spice up football, which obviously it has. But it's funny that the one club hasn't profited is Brentford, who he was chairman of. But yes, you as I say, 9 attempts previously, whether you've lost in the semi-final stages or the finals, you sort of become numb to it. That sounds silly to say it, because even going into Sunday's final, I was, as I said, I was fearful because I'm so used to losing these important games that numb might not be the right word, because I wasn't numb. I was panicking and worrying about it. But I kept thinking, if we lose, I'm used to it. If we lose, I'm used to it. So I can get over it, hopefully. And in that respect, like last year, losing to Fulham in the final, I did get over it pretty quick, just because I think I'm used to it, really. But it's so fascinating when you say, you know, you've not had that experience because you've only ever been in the top flight. And it can be wonderful highs, as we're now experiencing for the very first time, but there can be some incredible lows as well that you don't want to be going through. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, losing the Champions League final was brutal. That's probably the worst I've ever felt as an Arsenal fan. And I think we get spoiled. And maybe we've thrown our toys out the pram a little bit over the last couple of seasons, but it's only because, you know, when your team has that winning culture, or you've been part of that and those experiences, it's really hard to see us regress the way we have in the Premier League. And those pills are really tough to swallow. So the juxtaposition to that is this season, you know, you get to experience the joys of these kinds of images. What did you and your family do then when, and also going back, look at you, like you've been flying this flag for years. You are not a fair weather fan at all. And there will be a few new fans that come on board, which will be great for the club. But how did you guys celebrate?
Well, we went to a bar afterwards, like many fans did, and just indulged in some champagne. And then, Sophie, I was quite fortunate that I got invited to the Brentford do that night. So that was actually in the stadium. And obviously the playing squad, the management, even like, you know, all the people that work behind the scenes were all there. And it, as you can imagine, something so unbelievable that we've never experienced before, to have gone through that and then to be in that room amongst everybody. I mean, it was carnage. I'm not going to lie, it was carnage, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I mean, our owner Matthew Benham, he came up to me and gave me a massive hug, and he was like, "We did it!" And it was just constant conversations of, "I can't believe it, we've done it." And so I was very fortunate to do that. And as it was a bank holiday weekend over here, I mean, it didn't just stop on that one night.
I love it. I love it. Can you talk to me a little bit about your manager, Thomas Frank? Is he, you know, you see someone like Eddie Howe who took Bournemouth. You see these stories of teams that have come through the ranks of the other divisions, and a manager just comes in and the fit culturally and the DNA is just magic. Is Is he the reason? Do you, aside from the talent that you've had over the years, but this year in particular, talk me through the manager and the importance that he's become to your club?
Oh, do you know what? He exudes passion. And I think that is so important for us because we are still a relatively small club. I know now we're in the Premier League and it's ridiculous, and the untold riches that brings, and who knows where you go from there. But prior to winning this game, we were just this little old club in West London, one of 4 clubs in just this area. And he has just brought a passion and pride to this team. And I mean, our journey began with Uwe Rosler and then Mark Warburton and then Dean Smith. They've all had a big part to play in our promotion, we have to say. And of course, Matthew Benham ultimately is the person that really has brought us the success. But Thomas Frank came in when Dean Smith was head coach. He was his assistant for a little while, and then obviously Dean Smith moved to Aston Villa. And I was very much behind the appointment of Thomas Frank because for me, it made absolute sense. He's already worked at the club. He understands the ethos of the club and what direction we wanted to go in. And he's proved right, Matthew Benham, to have appointed Thomas Frank. He's had his critics, even within the Brentford fan base, if you like, because, when you're not winning, you're going to get criticised. I've always thought, no, stick with him because I've truly believed in him. I know he rubs up other clubs the wrong way, especially last season when we were going on this terrific run towards the end of last season and could have secured automatic promotion, but we slipped up a couple of times. But he kept sort of goading, I felt like, West Brom and Leeds last season. And I think he's learnt from that and was a little bit more restrained this time around and was very much focused more on us than he was on other teams. But he's great. He's great. And we like to play expansive football. That's our style. We love to have the ball. And he tinkered with our style towards the end of the season, which again proved dividend for us as well, as we've now secured promotion. So he's happy to change things up, speak to his key personnel at the squad within the squad. So Pontus Jansson and Christian Norgard, for example. And he shares. He likes to share. But I'm very enthusiastic about him, I have to say. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hello.
Super Kevin Campbell. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. I've had technical issues all over the place.
Everyone has today. What is going on in the world?
I don't know. Something's happening because I couldn't even log on with my phone.
Wow. It's
So
all
it was
that
a
heat you
nightmare.
guys are having in England. You're not used to it.
Melted everything. That's what it is.
Kevin, Natalie's rocking her Brentford shirt as well, by the way, today. I mean,
Yeah, but listen, congratulations. Big
Thank you.
congratulations, definitely.
we were just talking.
Natalie,
go on,
I've got a
Kev.
question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, after all this time, there's been that different thought pattern of how they're going to get promotion, of buying different players. The recruitment drive has been a bit different. Why do you reckon it happened this season and not before?
I think we were. Oh, it's a very good question, that, Kevin. Really, I mean, I think the heartbreak of last season certainly helped. In the sense they didn't want to go through that again. None of us wanted to go through it again because I think a lot of us truly believed last season we were going to go up because it was our final season at Griffin Park. It was like the stars are aligned. It's all going to work out. And then it didn't. I just feel as though what happened last season really, as I say, galvanized the squad. And I know, of course, we had a couple of new players who were brought in. But obviously they bought into the ethos. And somebody like Ivan Toney, he had a massive point to prove when people were questioning, could he make the step up into the Championship? My goodness, did he make the step up?
Yeah.
I think I would go, just the club spirit, I think, really got us through it because there were a lot of players there that wanted to prove that we weren't one-hit wonder. And I would say that's really what got us through it.
Brilliant. Yeah, done fantastic. Sorry, Soph, go on.
No, Kev, jump in whenever. I was talking about Thomas Frank and what a great job he's done this season, and Natalie was talking about how he'd worked under Dean Smith and he's brought the team through. They're finally in the Premier League. I mean, now the biggest question is, and we see it all the time, I can't wait for all the pundits to get stuck into their 3 that are going to go down, and Brentford will probably be in that list of most people.
I'm one of them, Soph. I'm one of them who's going to be asked that question.
Natalie's right here. You
I'm
can't.
going to get asked the
Waited,
question.
I'm gone.
I'm going to get asked the question, and look, you have to say, yeah, it's going to be difficult for Brentford. But again, the way they recruit, the spirit they have, the new stadium, I thought, made a difference for you as well this season. Even with no fans there, the new stadium, it gives the players a feeling of we're a bigger club. We are a bigger club and a bigger team. So it's going to be a tight one, but I'd love to see Brentford stay up. I really would.
I'd love them to pull off like a Leeds type season. It would be amazing. Or Wolves, or, you know, I'm not going to mention Sheffield United because obviously we all saw what happened to them this season. But Natalie, I guess the key is when a team's promoted, the biggest question is always going to be, can you keep the team together? And I've got a ton of questions for you in chat as well. But the main one is, can we please take Ivan Toney?
No, we can't.
What do you think the reality is of being able to keep the team intact? Is there like a gentleman's agreement with everyone? And that happens often where, you know, let's try it for one season. If it doesn't work out, then an Ivan Toney may be able to move on. What's your take on that?
I mean, listen, I'd love that to be the case. Money, we know, talks at the end of the day, but we're in a very different situation to the seasons before when we have always needed to sell. Now we're coming into a league, yes, where we know we need to recruit, so we need to spend money, but do we need to sell? I don't know if we do need to sell this first season. Now, who knows what happens after that? But I would love to think that Ivan Toney will want to stick around with us for a season, do as well as he can do in the Premier League. And if it goes well, he can hopefully stick around with us. Or if it doesn't go well for Brentford, but it still goes well for him and for enough for him to earn a move, then who's going to begrudge him that? Because he scored 31 goals in the regular season to put us into this position that we now find ourselves in. I'm not surprised there are lots of people interested in him because he's been absolutely terrific. And it's not just about goals. It's so much more to his game than that. So could he go to another club? Yeah, absolutely. I hope he doesn't. And I really do hope there's a gentleman's agreement with the majority of the squad. There are, I think, a few players that will be leaving. That's only natural. But yeah, I'd love the nucleus to stick with us and just see where we can go.
Kev, what would your advice be to Ivan Toney? And I mean, we saw Ollie Watkins leave and look what I actually think Ollie Watkins deserved to be in the England team more than Marcus Rashford. It's typical of England to pick injured players as opposed to form players. But what's your take? What would your advice to Ivan Toney be?
My advice to Ivan Toney would be stay where you are for now, because a lot of suitors will be watching and say, let's see how he does in the Premier League against the better players, against the better teams, against the better defences. That's going to be the key. I know Ivan Toney's like an old-fashioned number 9. He holds the ball up really well. He's good in the air. He's got a great spring. You could put the ball in the box and he'll go and head it in, and he can finish. So a good all-round game like that has many suitors. But again, he's never played at this level before. So you say to him, all right, you go and stay at Brentford for one season, and let's see how you go. And then you could see whether he adjusts right. It may take 2 seasons. Now, if it's 2 seasons at Brentford and they're in the Premier League, I'm sure Natalie will be more than happy with that number 9. Yeah, but obviously, if he does well, then I'm sure there'll be a lot of clubs who would be happy to put money on the table for him. So, hey, listen, Brentford they do have a history of being able to replace these guys. Ollie Watkins was fantastic. They replaced him with Ivan Toney. And I'm sure the scouts are looking at the next one.
I mean, Natalie, it's true. Like the scouting, unbelievable. To be able to sell a player like that, obviously fans aren't happy about it. But then to have an Ivan Toney come in, and every signing's a risk, isn't it? We don't know how signings are going to work out. But my goodness, talk about not make you forget Ollie Watkins, but the fact that you're able to do that. I mean, Arsenal Football Club struggle recruiting well. We've really been pants at it for years, haven't we, Kev? It's just been terrible, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm going to throw some questions up here for Natalie before we get into a bit of a general football discussion as well. Natalie, when Swansea scored first, how did you feel?
Well, they didn't score first.
I didn't think so. They didn't score at all.
No, they did obviously in our semi-final last.
The semi-final last year, I think what Dempsey's thinking about.
Yeah. So, listen, when it comes to a playoff campaign, and as I've already stated, we are so hopeless at it. So when we concede, you just think it's game over, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Perhaps he's talking about the Bournemouth game and how they obviously came into that second leg with that advantage, 1-0 up. And yes, knowing if you're playing a Bournemouth side who have such talent as was there only more recently in the Premier League, I was concerned, but knowing we had the second leg at home with 4,000 fans, which is the highest attendance obviously we'd had at the new stadium, I just had a feeling we might do something, as nervous as I was. And my family will tell you, telling lies right now because you're back. I had sleepless nights. There was just something I felt like we could do something here. We can be that 12th man, as they always say. And yeah, it all came good.
It's funny, that fan intuition, when you feel it's your time and then some games you just dread and you're like, we're not doing this. It's not happening. That's the worst feeling in the world. Anthony asks, what was your first ever Brentford game and did they win? Do you remember your first ever game?
Yeah, so it was Bristol Rovers. It was a 1-1 draw. So in that respect, not memorable, but memorable because of just it being my brother's birthday, being that there was a few of us. I remember actually I was the only girl as well, so I felt pretty special that I was the only girl. So yes, it was Steve Perryman was our manager as well. So yes, I know I shouldn't really have mentioned him.
Yeah, we're not fans.
No, I shouldn't have said that. So yes, that was our first game. It was November time, and as I say, we were hooked after that.
Let me ask you about another player that a lot of fans are eyeing up. Raya, correct me if I'm wrong if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. Is he another player that, and a lot of folks are asking about him in chat, is he someone, that has kind of, has Ivan Toney taken over the shine, his own shine? Do they both deserve as much as the plaudits? How important was he for this team, and do you see him staying this season?
Well, obviously he was a player that I think you were linked with last season.
Yes.
And we turned that down, which I think he was quite disappointed about, which you can understand when you see Ollie Watkins and you see Said Benrahma getting the moves that they want. So I could understand his disappointment, but he was our number one goalkeeper. I think he is a really good goalkeeper. He's got good distribution, plays exactly how we want to play, obviously, play out from the back. I think he will stay with us. I think there was a release clause in his contract possibly, but now we've gone up. That is negated, I think. I could be wrong on that. And look, defensively, we really shored up in the last couple of seasons, and obviously he's pivotal to that, alongside, as I say, Pontus Jansson and Ethan Pinnock, for example, our two centre halves. So David Raya has been really, really good. We recruited him from Blackburn, so we already had championship experience for us. He could certainly make the step up, I'm sure of that. Whether he'd be a number one at, say, Arsenal, I'm not quite sure yet, but he's still relatively young, and who knows, but I'd like to think he'll stick around with us again as well.
Yeah, it's interesting with newly promoted teams, because I feel like it's always an opportunity for them to find a new fan base, it's generational, right? And in the United States, Leicester City kind of became that team that everyone was rooting for. I'm not saying you're going to pull a Leicester City, but from my mouth to God's ears, that would be great for you. What do you feel about new fans coming on board? You've been a fan for so long. We even have listeners here who are young and who've been Arsenal fans for 10 years or even 5 years. What's your thoughts on that? Can only be good for the club, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like I said before, we're one of 4 clubs in West London. So we were already competing in a very small market for a fan base. So the fact now we're in the Premier League and we may now attract new support is only going to be a good thing for us. It's how you thrive as a club. And we're very fortunate that if we go back to sort of the 2000s, the early 2000s, we had huge issues in terms of financial issues. And we had a supporters group that was started up, Bees United, that saved the club, essentially. We bought it eventually from our then owner, Ron Nodes. And so without our supporters group, who knows where Brentford would be right now. And Matthew Benham actually got involved with them as well, which started his sort of investment in the club. But look, that's back in the day when we only had 4,000 or 5,000 average attendances. Now we're in our new stadium, which has over 17,000 capacity. We expect now that will be full every game. And yeah, I love the fact that I might see young kids walking down the street with Brentford tops on. In fact, I am seeing it. There's a pride for so many fans now, and just seeing the celebrations in this local area when we went up was fantastic. And there were loads of young kids. And you know, my son, I've got a 10-year-old. He loves wearing his Brentford top, and he's proud that he supports a team that is doing well. Of course, you know, if they don't do well, it might be different. But you know, hopefully he can ride the storm like we all do. The only criticism I have sometimes is when you have this younger generation is they expect more instant success, shall we say. And you sometimes have to say to them, hang on, you forget when we were in League, or you're not aware of when we were in League Two and nearly going out of the Football League. So listen, where we were at as we were this season in the Championship, it was a pretty good place.
Kev talks about that all the time. He's talked about patience this year and how much we need it, and that our pain is probably going to, he called it from the beginning of the season saying pain's going to get worse. And you could just see it coming. And I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? Instant gratification, not only in sports, but in life these days. Everyone wants things handed, you know, so easily, and it just doesn't work that way. All right, let's switch gears a little bit to have a general football chat before we let you go. We got another 15 minutes here with Natalie Sawyer, who hosts Talksport Weekend Breakfast, broadcaster. If you haven't caught her on Talksport, she's absolutely epic, and you should absolutely listen. And you can also follow her at Natalie Sawyer on Twitter. I want to ask you this club, kind of weave it into Arsenal a little bit. We were talking about it with Warren Barton on the show last night. Do you think Chelsea are now a bigger club than Arsenal?
Oh, what a question. I don't know if this is the right forum. This is an Arsenal forum. Oh my goodness. Listen, I think historically, no, Chelsea aren't. There's no denying that. We know the successes that Arsenal have had, and you know, we're going beyond Arsene Wenger's era, and you know, going down to the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it is. So I think historically, no. I think the problem that Arsenal have right now is that, you know, Chelsea have just won the Champions League. Chelsea again, winning trophies that, yes, you mentioned you won the FA Cup, but you want to be winning these bigger trophies. And you've never won the Champions League. That is something that you want to be doing. And I think it's a really interesting debate. And I think if you're just going on recent success, unfortunately for Arsenal, I think it would be Chelsea right now. But historically, no, I'd very much back Arsenal.
Kev? I mean, I tend to agree. And the Premier League, they're way bigger than us, and have been for years.
In the Premier League era, don't forget, in the first 15 years of the Premier League, 10 years of the Premier League, obviously it was Arsenal, Manchester United battling right at the very top. Arsenal had an incredible side, etc. But we know, this is one thing we do know: if you don't keep moving the club forward, you stand still. And when you stand still, other teams pass you by. Abramovich comes in and absolutely changes the fortunes of Chelsea. And in recent years, Natalie's exactly right. It pains me to say it, but yeah, they have been the more aggressive team. They've won the big trophies. They've won more Premier Leagues than us. I mean, in the last 17 years, you know, or 16 years, should I say, we haven't won a Premier League. That is not good enough. But we go back to the Liverpool scenario. If you said to me after 1990 that Liverpool wouldn't win a league title for 30 years, I would have put you in a straitjacket and they would have taken you to the funny farm, because Liverpool was so dominant. But again, if you don't move the club forward and make the correct signings, the recruitment has to be right. You stand still and other people pass you by, and it takes time to catch up. And this is where we are. That's why I mentioned about the pain, because the pain is there for Arsenal fans, because we just haven't got it right yet.
It's so funny too, isn't it, that we beat them twice to win. Well, was it semi-final in 2017 and this past year? I mean, the fact that we've been able to do that, we did the double over them too in the Premier League. It's so that our inconsistency is our Achilles heel. Natalie, what has been your take on Mikel Arteta this season? Because we're so divided over him. I mean, he's such a polarizing manager, and unfortunately, it's to a point where you can't really criticize him if you don't agree with what he's doing, and then if you stand up for him, you're too much of a homer, if you like. What?
No, you're a lawyer.
You're a lawyer like Kevin,
like
yeah.
You're absolutely right. You can't win, can you? Either or, really. Listen, there's no doubt it's been disappointing. Arsenal to not have European football. Listen, would you have wanted the European Conference? I'm not sure, or Europa Conference, I should say. But to not have any European football and for it to have ended in just such a disappointing fashion is not Arsenal's standard at all. It's been inconsistent. That's the problem. There's been some highs, there's been some great performances, and then there's been some really below pars. Villa winning at Arsenal, was terrific for Villa, but I mean that shouldn't be happening at the Emirates, should it? And there's been cases of bringing Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe into the team this season has been brilliant. Oh, how exciting a talent have you got in those two players? And I'm sure there's way more behind the scenes at Arsenal as well. But it's the older guard that have let Arsenal down, really. And again, you had the issue with Kieran Tierney and some of the injury problems that he's had, but then he's been fit and not been playing. And Granit Xhaka was a left back. And at times you thought, Mikel Arteta's found something there because he's put Xhaka in the left back role, and okay, he's not a defender by trade, but it seemed as though he was filling a role, and then the next game he'd do something terrible and you'd be like, oh my goodness, what is going on? So I can only imagine the headache that Arsenal causes all of you because you just don't know what you're going to get week in, week out. You're
not wrong. It's like the scene in Forrest Gump, life's like a box of chocolates. You don't quite know what you're going to get, and that is Arsenal Football Club for sure. And Kev said it all, like how important our recruitment this summer is. This is massive transfer window for us. We can't fall further behind. Some folks want to know if you were surprised if Chelsea won the Champions League. Do you think that was... Kev always talks about the players crossing the white lines and having to perform. But in some instances, a manager's culpable for how he sets the team up. Kevin even agreed on this occasion that Pep made fundamental mistake. What's your take? Do you think that's why Chelsea ended up winning, because of Pep's mistakes?
Well, yeah, I think absolutely right. Kevin's right. He is culpable. The buck stops with him. And every now and then, Pep Guardiola just wants to outthink, and it doesn't go well. And you sometimes think, why not stick to what wins, what's successful at Manchester City? Did I think Chelsea were going to win? No, I fully expected Manchester City to win. I thought it was going to be tight. I thought might be just one goal in it. But I fully expected that City were going to win, especially as actually Chelsea finished the season, 3 defeats in the last 4, something like that. So it wasn't a great run of form that took them into it. But wow, the wonders of what Thomas Tuchel has done. That defensively they were going to be difficult to break down. But I just don't think Pep Guardiola helped himself by the lineup, by the way that they played. It was very strange, and I quite agree. I think he certainly has to take the blame for just trying to be different when he didn't have to be different.
Yeah. What can I ask what your take is on the Player of the Year awards, the nominations? Mo Salah hasn't even made the shortlist. He seems to have single-handedly saved Liverpool this season, in my opinion, especially where Sané didn't really have a great season. What do you think about that? And if Foden, who scored less goals, and I know he's had a huge impact, but because Liverpool have been so poor, it seems like he's been completely ignored.
Yeah, you're quite right. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, he still banged in the goals, didn't he? I mean, in general, though, Liverpool's front three were just quite disappointing this season, ultimately. I think Mane got off to a fairly good start, but actually just fell away, didn't he? It's a strange one. I don't even know how they pick these nominations, in all fairness. Phil Foden has been terrific. Whether he'd be my player of the year is another thing. Well, I don't know if I should say Harry Kane, but maybe
you can mention him on this show. We do a lot. Don't worry.
Maybe he would swing it for me just with the amount of goals and assists. He's just been tremendous. But then sometimes I don't know. I sometimes, it's a bit like the manager of the year. A load of people have been saying it should be Pep Guardiola, because of what these are cheering. And I'm a bit like, I'm not really a big fan of giving someone that you expect to do well the manager of the year award. I prefer to maybe look over a course of a season and see, or even like look back at last season and see what happened last season to what this season has ended up being. So, for example, my manager of the year would be David Moyes, because to have taken West Ham from relegation fodder last season to Europe, I mean, that's just balmy, and no one would have thought that was going to happen. So, yeah, I find the player of the year one much harder than I would the manager of the year. But, yeah, I think just goals and assists-wise, I think Harry Kane's just been tremendous.
Someone just threw up in chat, by the way.
I'm not sorry. I feel a bit sick for saying it. I'm so sorry.
I did set you up for that one. Okay, just a couple more minutes here with Natalie Sawyer, who hosts Talksport Weekend Breakfast. I can't let you go without asking you. We have a lot of great women who've been on the show: Alison Bender, Lindsay Hooper, Rebecca Lowe, women who I admire a lot. And, Kev and I have talked to women here in the States as well who are part of the game. Talk to us a little bit about what it means to you to be a woman in football now versus when you were starting off, and your journey, like just how hard it was versus is it different now?
Yeah. So obviously I started out at Sky, and I think I was quite fortunate. My journey hasn't been maybe as hard as or as troublesome as some people. Don't get me wrong, I've been questioned many a time. And there are certain things I remember at Sky being asked and thinking, would you have asked a man that question? Like even just simple things like, do you know a Wolves play? And when you're thinking, whoa, why is that the first question you're going to ask me? Silly things like that, where that used to frustrate me. But you sort of became, I'm using the word numb again, but you did, because you just know that there are some people that are always going to want to test you a little bit more than say others. I think I've been very fortunate to have started my career at Sky where there were already women presenters who had sort of paved the way. You had Gabby Logan and obviously Kirsty Gallagher, a very good friend of mine, Claire Tomlinson, who was the first pitchside reporter when it came to Sky Sports' football coverage. I think she deserves a huge credit, and I think actually sometimes gets forgotten about. Because of what she did at Sky and still is doing it at Sky as well. Right now, I think rightly so, women are being brought into the conversation more and more, and we're seeing more and more presenters and pundits. And I think it's absolutely right, because we're all fans, ultimately, at the end of the day. I mean, you wouldn't want to be in this job if you weren't a fan, I would like to think. So I love it. I love what I do. I'm very fortunate to do what I do. But yeah, I think it's great that we're seeing more and more of us, Sophie, doing our thing and showing everybody that we know what we're talking about when we, and there are some men, let's not forget, who are sometimes showed up on our TVs and radios, and they may not get as much criticism as a woman would, let's say. That still happens. But, I think it's brilliant that we're seeing more and more of us doing it.
Totally. Kevin loves it. Right, Kev?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think Natalie's been a breath of fresh air in on Sky as well, and in the sport of football. There ain't many women who can hold a conversation with men and come out on top, and Natalie's one of them. This is what I have to say. I've seen it happen many times over, and another standard bearer and a fantastic female presenter. So, I always wish you well, Natalie, always.
Oh, you're too kind, Kevin. Thanks.
Awesome stuff. This has been great. Do you promise to come back on the show one day as well during the season so we can...
When we've hammered you, of course.
Yeah, when you...
No
you're officially the Highbury squad Brentford correspondent for when we play home and away, okay?
I'd love to come on anytime. Okay. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely.
Awesome. And also, guys, don't forget that Natalie just said when we've hammered you, okay?
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah. Don't do that literally. I don't want my flooded now. But, yeah.
Natalie, we have to draw the line somewhere.
I know. So now you want to retract everything you just said, Kevin, about
No, I don't want to retract it, but I hope you have the same energy after the game when we play you.
Yeah, all right.
Love it. Absolutely brilliant. Do you think England can win the Euros? 30 seconds before I let you go.
I do love the squad. I'm like you. I feel Ollie Watkins. Say that again. Ollie Watkins was a little unlucky to miss out. I'm intrigued by the whole 4 right backs. I mean, you know, bizarre in itself, but Gareth Southgate seems to want this sort of versatility within his squad. I sometimes worry about, do you have too much versatility? Do you need more specialised players sometimes? But of course, I go into it optimistic, and with the sort of home crowd behind us, who knows? I think, yeah, why not? England can do it. Yeah.
I love the positivity. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay safe, enjoy your summer, and hopefully you get some time off after the Euros. We'll be listening to you intently on Talksport over the weekends and more.
Thanking you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Natalie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great stuff there from Natalie Super Kev. Absolutely brilliant. She's just top shelf. I adore her.
Absolute diamond, diamond lady in football. There are some real. Do you know what? For a woman to make it in the men's game, a lot of them are diamonds, and we've had quite a few of them on the Highbury squad.
We really have. We have. You're right. Well said.
And what an absolute professional as well. Super professional woman. And a Brentford fan at that, which is we have a correspondent for Brentford.
I love it.
Now. It's great.
I love it. And what a correspondent we have, Super Kev. Top shelf. Top shelf. Okay, so before I let you go, I wanted the first thing the squaddies asked was, are you guys going to talk about Antonio Conte maybe going to Tottenham? Are we worried about him going to Tottenham, Kev? Are you?
No, not at all. No. Not worried about him going to Spurs at all. For me, don't forget they were speaking to Pochettino. They were deep in talks with Pochettino a few days ago. So this Antonio Conte one. Listen, whoever they get, they've got managers who have won at other clubs. It never works out at Spurs. Let's be honest. It never works out. So listen, if they get him, they will make him realise why he should have avoided that club.
Are you surprised Man United aren't coming in for him, Kev? Like going in for him? I was saying you missed my point because I said at least Arteta's won a trophy. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Yeah,
well, I mean that's the thing that's going to get levelled at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now, isn't it? You know, we say we can't let Mikel Arteta off for winning the FA Cup because the league season's been so bad. Mm-hmm. But if he'd have lost, we would have been beating him with that stick about not winning the trophy. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, with the amount of money they've got, with the players they've got, the squad they've got, they've won nothing. And I am a bit surprised that Manchester United haven't looked at Antonio Conte for sure. But don't forget, nothing's happened yet.
No, it hasn't.
So nothing's happened yet. And these clubs tend to want to test the water and see who's been involved and who's talking, and then, you know, they move with their might. I mean, look at Ancelotti. I got asked about Ancelotti previously. I said, no, Ancelotti's not going nowhere. And then Real Madrid flexed their muscles, and before you know it, he's in Madrid, because there's certain clubs, and when you have certain managers of the top level, there's certain clubs that they cannot turn down. And when Arsenal's doing well, Arsenal are a club that the manager stays. But Arsenal, obviously, if they wanted to change the manager, for instance, we've said it all along. Mikel Arteta, we reckon he's going to stay. But if Arsenal pulled the trigger, it wouldn't surprise us.
Yeah, honestly, I feel for Everton fans. That's brutal. I mean, you could also say that after finishing 10th and maybe a project like that is not suited to him, Kev, that this is an opportunity for Everton to reboot, you know?
Do you know what, Soph? This is the truth. I disagree. What was happening at Everton with 8 games to go, still with 8 games to go, they could have qualified for the Champions League.
Yeah.
But I personally think Everton, like Arsenal, were one of the clubs to suffer not having fans at home. At their home pitch, at Goodison, at the Emirates, both these clubs suffered because normally their home form is their strong point. Everton's home form was woeful. Arsenal's home form was woeful without fans there. So, it's only a few points in it as well, Sophie. You get a few more points on the board and you are right up there challenging and you get a European spot. You get a European spot at Everton, you see the progress. Although progress was made, it ended badly the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, look, we're going to go off and watch the second half of this England game. And Kev, you're off tomorrow, right? You're off tomorrow, or are you on tomorrow?
I'm in London tomorrow, but
yes.
I will be here.
All right. Because the kids have been asking for it. I say that loosely. The squaddies have been asking for it. We're going to do a unique transfer show tomorrow. And our very special guest, especially for you, Newman, is going to be Jess from She Knows Arsenal. You saw Jess make her debut here on the Highbury squad a few months ago. She's been smashing it and doing a great job with her channel. And she's really super into the whole transfer market storytelling and line. So we're going to present a few different scenarios tomorrow in terms of Arsenal and the transfer market. And Kev, there's still such a long way to go. So we're going to have a chat about it with a bit of a twist.
Okay, cool.
And then on Friday, we have a very special edition of Kevin Says, and that has a little bit of a twist as well.
Very much so. Yes.
So you guys won't want to miss that. There are two very special guests coming on Friday as well. We have Lee Judges and Dan Potts, who are joining for a little Kevin Says action. So you will not want to miss that, people. And we're also excited to talk to Lee about his new channel as well, Lee Judges TV. So you won't want to miss that at all either. That's it. That's all I've got for them today, Kev. That's all, squaddies.
Fantastic.
It's officially a wrap.
Joined the party late. Couldn't get on my phone. Couldn't get on my laptop. And luckily, after about 15, 16 minutes, my phone starts working. And as my phone starts working, my laptop decides to wake up. So there you go. I don't know what's going on.
You still made it, Kev. You still made it. Someone was a bit cheeky and they said that Kev's later than Aubameyang. I mean, there's always one squaddy. I won't tell you who it was. I don't want any trouble.
Here's the thing, Soph. It doesn't matter because I couldn't get on. So they could say that, when you're trying to get on, but you can't get on, there's nothing you can do. So it's no problem.
Superb stuff. And listen, you guys, remember, if you hate Tottenham, and Natalie mentioned them a couple times today, and to be fair, I'm the one that set that up. So you definitely have to hit the like button on the way out of the door. Don't you forget that. So Kev, until tomorrow, listen, remind the squaddies where it's at.
Listen, it's always the Arsenal. So, up the Gunners and come on, you Gunners!
Get in!